Lords, I thank the Noble Lord the Minister for his answer and welcome the Noble Lord to the dispatch box and look forward to working with him on these issues. As research that I shared with the Noble Lord indicates, elevated levels of AMR genes have been identified as a new standalone factor in global change. Can the Noble Lord tell me about what resources the government plans to devote to this meeting, but also if it has a long-term plan? The meeting is only one moment of what needs to be a long-term process to engage with this, both through aid and through diplomacy.
I think the Noble Lady is absolutely right. I mean, our first step is to actually ensure that we give the maximum publicity to this high-level meeting and that we engage all governments in the declaration. And what we want to see is a strong acknowledgement of the need to reduce the discharge of AMRs, driving chemicals into the environment. But we also want to see proper surveillance and proper research. We're totally committed to a strong political declaration, and our hope is that we will be able to achieve that. And we will follow through with much more effective support for research.
My Lords, I welcome the Noble Lord Minister to his role, and he's been a great champion for development and nutrition in particular, and I look forward to that continuing. My Lords, in response to the needs of low-income countries, the previous Foreign Secretary announced £85 million of funding for AMR back in May, and the UK's work on AMR has strong cross-party support. I hope the current Foreign Secretary will continue to show political leadership and prioritise attendance at the high-level meeting. And we must raise our ambition here, and more resources needed. Can the Noble Lord the Minister say what the government will do to encourage international financial institutions and multilateral development banks to help low-income countries access more funding for AMR?
Well, again, the Noble Lady is absolutely right. What we want to do is ensure that the political declaration is followed through in our work. And obviously, as we come through to the round of multilateral negotiations, we can ensure that that political declaration is taken into account when those multilateral funds start thinking about disbursement. But obviously, the high-level panel meeting at the United Nations General Assembly is a very important event, but it's not the only one. And what we will ensure is the fullest attendance to maximise the political implications and effect of our participation.
Brief, he brings a huge amount of experience to this, and I wish him well in his role going forward. He'll be aware that the previous government was commended rightly for their 20-year ambition on AMR and also the 5-year action plans. But there was concern that given the fact that a lot of the UK research was being carried out through official development assistance, that the very considerable cut to that, moving away from the 0.7, has had an impact on UK research. What reassurance can the Minister give that the new government will set us back on the trend to having 0.7% of GNI for ODA, so we can return to being a global leader on AMR research?
Well, I don't think the things are necessarily linked. I think the Noble Lord knows our commitment to 0.7, and we want to return to it as soon as fiscal situation allows for it. But in the meantime, what we want to do is focus on the impact of our ODA. And that's why this political declaration is so important, because we can achieve a lot. And one of the things that we will be doing is actually looking at the plans and the commitments that the previous government made and ensure that we work in partnership with African countries to deliver the biggest impact.
My Lords, while accepting that we need to do everything possible to control the increasing incidence of antibiotic resistance, would the Noble Lord the Minister agree that we should also pursue research which will find other forms of treatment to control bacterial infections particularly? For instance, new antibiotics developed, one particularly developed in Harvard University, that changes the way it works on bacterial infections. The second is in Imperial College London, which developed to disrupt microbiology of bacteria. And the third, importantly, is developing viruses that act as bacteriophages to destroy the bacterial infections. But that facility requires having a manufacturing facility, which last week the Science, Technology and Innovation Committee recommended that we should develop one in the old Rosalind Franklin laboratory in the north. Would the Minister comment on that?
Well, I was extremely grateful for the noble Lord catching me in the corridor just before, warning me about this. But I think the fact of the matter is, and the noble Lady Baroness Bennett emphasised the importance of research, and it's constantly developing, and we've got to look at it in terms of not only the problems we face in this country, but also the issues that are faced in low to middle income countries. And he's absolutely right. Our first commitment out of the high-level panel meeting is to focus on the need for greater research. But I accept what the noble Lord says, that and we are a centre of excellent research in this country, and what we need to make sure that the benefits of that research are reflected in our ability to turn research into those manufacturing capabilities. And I'm very pleased that I think my honourable friend in DSIT will be absolutely focused on ensuring that is the case.
My Lords, can I begin by congratulating the noble Lord on his appointment as a Minister? Indeed, congratulate the whole Labour front bench on the election victory, but also on their appointments as Ministers. And following up on that last question, I wonder if my noble Lord the Minister could tell us, across government, in order to have joined-up government, which other government departments is the FCDO working with to ensure that there is a real joined-up government approach to tackling this issue?
Well, of course, as we made clear in the election, and by the way, I welcome the noble Lord to his position on the front bench. I'm really pleased to see him back. Back in the opposition, but anyway. The point, I think, what we've made clear when we entered the election is we will be a mission-based government. And actually that involves cross-departmental working. And certainly on economic development, and let's not ignore the fact that this is a fundamental part of economic development, not only for this country, but to ensure that we spread that mission to all our partnerships in Africa. So I certainly, on the Fleming funding and the other issues that I've addressed already, we are working on a cross-departmental basis with DEFRA. We're ensuring that the good practice that we have in this country is replicated and followed through in other countries. So the noble Lord is absolutely right. We will be committed to that.
My Lords,
to his position, and it was wonderful to work with him when we were in opposition, and it's his turn now, and we expect a lot from him. And could I therefore ask, what percentage of ODA goes into research? It was vital in terms of support for, say, the Jenner Institute and the preparation that we made for the pandemic. So could you tell us what support for UK research is ODA money?
Well, I may have to follow through in writing. And by the way, of course, when we first worked together, the noble lady was in government, and I was in the opposition to that. And despite that, we worked collaboratively then. But of course, ODA, we are supporting, ODA is spent on AMR, and we're certainly, as I mentioned, the Fleming Fund provides, we've spent, I think the government, previous government as well, £400 million on that support. But if I broaden it out to the other aspects of research, because they're not exclusive, other research can benefit the fight against AMR. I'll write to the noble lady with the more detailed information.
My Lords, I welcome my noble...
Lords, one area that we should focus our research efforts is on veterinary practice, where much of the resistance arises. Can my noble friend give some indication of what efforts are being made in that regard? Veterinary practice.
Well, actually, that's why I said at the beginning that we want to take a holistic approach to this issue, because it's not just medical overprescription. Of course, the ability for these chemicals to get into the environment is through animals, and we've been absolutely focused ensuring that our strategy and the high-level panel meeting addresses that issue. And it's not just veterinary, as I say, the issue isn't just about our practices in this country, it's about spreading the word across the world, because it's amazing how these things can get into the food system far more, widely spread than you can ever imagine. So it is a high priority.